travel, so we're making virtual visits. So today we're making a virtual visit to Calabria. I'm very happy that y'all are all here. And I'm going to share my screen so that we can take a look at some images of Calabria, and we're going to talk about some works of art and make a few recipes. Let's see, one second while I do my screen share. This always takes me a second. Okay, here we are. So we're going to be kind of a big group today. So Lorenzo and I have decided that we are going to keep the microphones muted. We usually have comments active during the lesson. I will take questions. Let's save questions and comments to the last sort of 10 minutes. Lorenzo's here in the room with me. He can help you with any tech questions that you have. And we have a special guest in the kitchen later, so we have kind of a lot going on. So that, together with the number of people online, we are going to keep the microphones closed. Okay, so here we are. You're looking at the Mediterranean basin. And if you are new here, I would like just to sort of point out where I usually come from. I'm usually talking to you from Florence, in the central part of Italy, but right now I am in Badolato in Calabria. So I'm in the region of Calabria, which is the toe of the Italian peninsula, and I'm in the town called Badolato, which you can see here behind me. It's a little town up in the hills over the Ionian Sea. So we're going to talk about two sculptures that were found offshore off the port of Caulon, ancient Caulon, which today is the modern towns of Riyache and Monasterace. We're also going to talk about Reggio di Calabria, Argos here in the Peloponnesus in Greece, and Rome and Istanbul. So take a look at that map because we're going to be talking about all of these places. So let's zero in on Calabria during the period of Magna Graecia. The Greeks colonized the Mediterranean basin starting in about 750 BC. They sent out groups of colonists who founded colonies in basically little city-states all throughout the Mediterranean basin. By 550 BC, so 200 years later, look at the inset map, you can see how much they had colonized. They really had taken over quite a good bit of basically the coastal regions anyway of the Mediterranean basin. In Calabria, you can see several of the towns here. Again, I am coming to you from Badolato, which is about right here, and we're going to take a look at two works of art which were found offshore on the bottom of the Ionian Sea, right here at modern-day Riyache, Monasterace, and ancient Caulonia. So at Monasterace today, there are ruins right visible on the beach. On the picture on the left, you can see the base of a Doric temple, which is literally right on the beach, and the column capital from that same temple. And they're actively excavating here today. On the right, you can see some of the digs that are going on in residential areas and sacred areas. However, they have not yet studied the port of ancient Caulon, where 48 years ago, last week, a scuba diver was out just offshore. He was about 200 yards offshore, only in about 25 feet of water. And he noticed what looked like a human arm coming up out of the sand. And you can kind of get a picture of that right here. So he went down to explore. He moved some of the sand off to see what he had found, and he realized it was a sculpture of a man. His flippers, as he was cleaning the sand off of this image, off of this sculpture, his flippers disturbed the sand behind him and actually revealed a second statue. So that's how he ended up finding two of these statues. He alerted the authorities, and several days later, the Carabinieri scuba squad went down with Rai Uno, who is the television station. They had an underground camera crew, underwater camera crew, and they filmed the recovery. So these objects were brought up by, they literally just lashed ropes around their shoulders, around their waists. They attached big, basically air balloons, and they were able to get these sculptures up. They brought them onto shore, and here is the image with them just coming out of the water. So you get an idea of the scale. It's kind of misleading. They're 6.5 feet tall, which is basically as tall as just, a tall person. But if you look at the image of the guy laying down here on the sand, I mean, these are big guys. They weigh almost 800 pounds apiece. They're in bronze. So you can see them being brought out of the water. You can see them laying on the sand. This is the guy smiling is one of the scuba divers who found them. So the recovery effort actually was a little bit sloppily done. Unfortunately, the arms in particular of these statues are really quite delicate. And just looking at that photograph of those men grabbing that guy by the arms kind of makes me nervous. This particular statue here actually had ancient repairs to both arms. So it's making me nervous just looking at this. There were also some pieces that came up with them that are no longer we don't know where they are. We've kind of lost track of them because, again, the recovery effort was a little bit sloppily done. There was also a problem with some objects disappearing even before they were brought ashore. So the diver who saw them reported that he saw 2 statues. He saw shields, lances, and helmets. Those objects, we don't know where they are. They have been, they've basically been, just kind of been shifted away. What happens often, unfortunately, is that black market antiquities traffickers get a hold of this stuff. And this is, in fact, just an image of a copy of one of the declarations of one of these people who actually told what happened, that he had been involved in the recovery and sale of some of these objects. They ended up in private collections and hopefully they can be recovered. Unfortunately, that kind of thing happens, but diligent archaeologists are often able to prove the case. Hopefully the accessories to these objects will return. We can hope that will happen one day. Here are the objects. They went straight from the beach to a restoration laboratory in Florence, Italy, called the Opificio di Pietre Dure. And they were restored to their former splendor. Basically, they just had been underwater for so long, they had a lot of incrustations. So those were removed and the surfaces were kind of consolidated, and they were put on view in 1980 in Florence at Palazzo Medici Riccardi. So this was a very, very, very big deal. A discovery like this is quite rare. These are Greek bronze originals. We have a handful of Greek bronze originals from the 5th century BC, which is the date of these sculptures, and we'll look at that in more detail. Literally a handful. So the idea that we have new original Greek bronze sculptures really drew out crowds, and you can see here people waiting in line to get in to see these sculptures when they were first put on view. My friends who live in Florence, all of them remember going as teenagers to see this. So they vividly remember seeing these objects. They're so powerful. So most of what we know of Greek sculpture is through Roman marble copies, because a lot of the times these sculptures, 1,000 years after they were created, they kind of weren't being used anymore. They were in the recycle pile, and they literally were melted down to make cannons or belt buckles or whatever. They're bronze, so they're kind of a good alloy for making those other objects. And so lots of Greek originals did in fact meet that fate. Our guys, though, luckily were involved in a shipwreck. And so here we have what are known as the Riyache Bronzes, bronze A on the left and bronze B on the right. So we don't know a heck of a lot about these just to start with, but by reading the images and paying very careful attention to some ancient documents, we can put together the story of who these guys are, where they came from, why they were on a boat, and who made them, and all of that. So let's take a closer look at these statues and try to figure out what's going on here. We do know that they were found with accoutrements, and so we'll take a look at some of those. They're also made up of bronze and then other bits and pieces. So let's take a look at how they are made. They're cast using what is called lost wax casting. So a clay model is formed by the artist. A full sculpture in clay is modeled by the artist. That is covered over with wax, and then the wax, some finer details are added on to the wax. Once that hardens, they put in some little drainage stuff, drainage channels and whatnot. So once the wax hardens, clay is packed around the statue. The statue is fired. Under the strong heat, the wax melts and comes out, leaving a channel where you can pour in molten bronze. So the bronze is poured into that the channel that's left that's been vacated by the wax. And then as soon as the bronze sets, the exterior part of the clay is knocked off and you have your final sculpture. So that's how these guys are made. Let's take a look carefully at some of the details of their faces. This is the mouth, for example. You can see, I think that the beard and mustache in particular were carved into the terracotta. You can kind of see how the artist worked the terracotta to do that. After the casting was complete, they added some details. They added copper lips. So the lips are actually made of copper to kind of give you some textural difference and try to add to the naturalism of these sculptures. And then this guy, this is bronze A here on the left. He has sterling silver teeth, which is a really interesting thing. This is the only extant bronze sculpture with teeth. We don't know of any other bronze that has teeth. Some marble sculptures do have the teeth shown. It's super hard to do, and the ancient Greeks actually would, they have recognized a masterful sculptor if he was able to naturally represent teeth. So these things are, these sculptures are spectacular, and they were made by a master sculptor. And the teeth here are important, so remember that detail because they'll come back to us. Let's take a look at the eyes. The eyes are, again, height of naturalism. They used copper eyelashes. They used a white stone called calcite for the whites of the eyes, which is this kind of watery whiteness that really does mimic our whites of our eyes. They have glass paste irises, pupils, black pupils. Notice how eyebrows seem to have been maybe even drawn on with a stylus onto the wax as opposed to cast directly from the terracotta mold. The shock of hair here, this little curl, amazing work on the hair. This guy has got a full head of hair. Here he is. Look at all of those curls. They were actually cast separately and welded on later. Beautiful. His beard as well. It's gorgeous. So here are our guys. And what we're looking at here, this image gives us the opportunity to see how they carried all of their accessories. You can see the plaque here where their shields, kind of the shield sat on that kind of armband, and there's even a piece of the shield handle inside of this guy's hand. There's even a little bit of, this is the little dots you see here are the attachment. The shields were quite heavy. They were probably 150 pounds. And so they would, in order to kind of protect the arm, this guy actually had his shield attached to his shoulder. They were carrying lances. You can see a bit of the lance still in this guy's hand. And they had helmets on. And we're going to take a close look at that. Although from this image, you can see that their heads were modeled in order to receive the helmets. We also know that those things existed because the diver who discovered them saw them. So if you put the accessories back on these guys, this is kind of what they would look like. So here we have two warriors. We have a statue, we have a sculptural group, basically. These guys were meant to be shown together. We have two warriors in wearing Corinthian helmets. The way they're wearing their helmets, though, is Greek convention for representing a hero. So an actual warrior in battle, his helmet was down over his face and he was wearing armor. This is the pure Greek iconography for how to represent a hero. He is shown nude, he's carrying his shield and his lance, and he's got his helmet, but it's cocked back on his head. So that is quite a traditional way of representing heroes. At the top of this slide, you can see a row of 3 images of heroes: Athena, a marble bust, and that small terracotta votive image. It's about this tall. I saw that in Reggio just the other day. Very similar to our guy. Again, bearded figure, hero with the Corinthian helmet back on his head, and again on this coin. So bronze A is, his curly hair is combed down very carefully. He's wearing a woolen headband. Warriors wore that to protect their heads from the helmets. Although his has several little raised triangular bits, which are to hold that helmet. That gives a spot for that helmet to rest. So really lets the helmet sit squarely on his head. And just for added security, there's a dowel here. So that dowel connected to the helmet. And that was the original dowel broke and a second dowel was inserted in the ancient period. So these repairs, the repairs on the first guy's on bronze B's arm and the repairs on bronze A's head, the repairs were made in the 2nd century AD. We know from just looking at these bronzes stylistically, they're dated to the mid 5th century BC, 450 BC, or slightly earlier. So they were on view for a very long time. This repair that we're looking at was 600 years after this, the creation of this work of art. So that's pretty amazing that these guys were on view for that length of time. Here is bronze B. His beard is done a little bit differently. It's cast as one piece. It's not individual curls. If you can see, this is kind of hard to see in the photo. There's a channel right here that goes down the side of the beard all the way under the chin and then back up on this side. And then his head looks a little funny. He's wearing a felt cap, again, with kind of, he's got a more of like a leather protector headband on. And his head is modeled in this funny way, just to accept the helmet, basically. And in fact, they did this so that they didn't even need a dowel in this case. The helmet fit directly on there. And the interesting thing about his helmet, and we know this from the shape of the back of the head and neck and this channel through the beard, is that he had a Cunei. And a Cunei was worn under the helmet by generals and kings. And it was done so that these are the guys who led a charge in the army, right? So if there was a battle, these guys led the charge. All of their warriors who were behind them could identify the general or the king, while he remained anonymous to the enemy that he was facing. So we have a warrior, we have two warriors. One of them is basically a foot soldier with his Corinthian helmet. The other one is a king or a general, and they're being depicted as heroes. So we've got two warrior heroes. That's not really a lot to go on. So they luckily did some examination of the clay that remained on the inside of the final sculpture. When you do lost wax casting, the original clay sculpture remains on the inside of the final product. So they analyzed that and are able to place the creation of these statues in Argos in the Peloponnesus. So remember, we saw that on the map over there in the western part of the Peloponnesus, which fits perfectly with the style of these figures. The archaeologists note they were not made in Athens, but they were made in the West. So now we have a link to Argos. We have a clear scientific link to Argos with the clay from the interior of the sculpture. So again, if you're an archaeologist or if you studied the classics, then you know that two warrior heroes in Argos are related to the tragedy of Oedipus, specifically the episodes of the Seven against Thebes. So what happens here is that Oedipus abdicates the throne of Thebes. He leaves it to his two sons, Polynice and Eteocles. So they are now the rulers of Thebes. But for whatever reason, they don't become co-kings. They decide that they're going to go 1 year, one guy, 1 year, the next guy. So the first brother, Eteocles, takes the throne. When his term is up, the year is over, he refuses to leave the throne. And Polynice, who has been exiled to Argos, is very unhappy about this. He takes a group of 6 Argive warriors with him and goes to attack Polynice and Polynice's men. So this is like the national myth of Argos. So we're pretty sure that we're dealing with some sculptures that had something to do with this group of 7 against Thebes. In the image on the lower left, you can see this is a terracotta in archaic style. And what I want you to look at is these two figures down here. This is Polynice. He is a fierce warrior. He's angry. He wants the throne. He is attacking one of the enemy soldiers with his teeth, and he has bit into that guy's cranium and he eats his brain. That's how fierce Polynice is. Eteocles, on the other hand, is the king, and so he's being protected by his men. If you look at the image on the right, this is a different episode in this tragedy, and you're looking at the moment of right before the fratricide. So what happens is we end up with a double fratricide here. These two brothers fight and they kill each other. Right before they fight, the moment right before this duel between the brothers, their mother, Jocasta, kneels down on the ground. She is bare-breasted. She has actually scratched herself. She's begging them, please not to do this. Unfortunately, she was unsuccessful and they go on to fight and kill each other. So that's the story here with the sons of Oedipus, Polynice and Eteocles. So let's go back to our guys. This is bronze B. So I think we can just call him Eteocles. He is the king of Thebes. He's wearing a regal helmet. He has kind of got the upper hand in the situation. And if you notice, he's got this kind of relaxed posture almost. He's certainly a vigorous, muscly figure, but he is relatively relaxed compared to his brother, Bronze A, who we can now call Polynice. He's showing his anger. His teeth are bared. The teeth are really a symbol of Polynice in this case. Interestingly, remember, these guys were made at about 450 BC. A Roman author called Stazio in the 1st century AD wrote about seeing a sculptural group on the Palatine in Rome. It included an angry warrior, a warrior in a regal helmet. The only regal helmets that existed in antiquity were those Corinthian helmets. Roman helmets didn't have a regal version. The only regal version of a helmet that was in existence was that Corinthian helmet like we just saw. And he also saw a kneeling woman, her arms spread apart, her breast bared, and she had scratched herself. So he reports having seen this group on the Palatine Hill in Rome. Here's Polynice again, mad on the attack. He's really just kind of breathed in and he is ready to take the throne. Another source from an ancient author, Tatiano, a Roman author, 2nd century AD, made specific reference to a sculptural group that he saw in Rome, a sculptural group of a fratricide made by Pitagara Di Reggio. That's Pythagoras from Reggio di Calabria. So that's interesting. There are lots of interpretations of who these guys might be, where they were from, who made them. At least 12 different ideas are out there. I started poking around in all the literature, and there's an archaeologist who's a professor in Messina. His name is Daniele Castrizio. Those are the images I used before from one of his books. He really has put together all of these ancient texts. He's read the statues very carefully, and 2 + 2 = 4, right? So once you get to this point and you've got Tatiano actually giving you the name of an artist, it all kind of falls into place. So Pitagara Di Reggio, he lived in Reggio di Calabria and he lived in Calabria, but these guys were on the move. These guys were not just stuck in place. So in Magna Graecia, there was lots of going and coming, and he actually, Pitagora actually had a workshop in Argos. So you put all those things together and it seems pretty clear that Pitagara Di Reggio is the author of these gorgeous, gorgeous sculptures. He was called by Pliny one of the top 5 bronze artists in ancient Greece, which is saying a lot. So Pliny, in the 1st century AD, the Romans really appreciated Greek art and specifically sculpture. So hundreds and hundreds of years later, Pliny even bothered to make a list of who were the top 5 Greek bronze artists. And he put Pitagora up here. He said that Pitagora was the first Greek sculptor to depict veins, tendons, and naturalistic details. He was the first to pay superfine attention to the curls of hair and beard, that he actually made his statues breathe. And I think we can see that here. We're right on the cusp of, we're in the severe style, which is that transition period between the archaic sculpture with really stylized faces and the classical period, which is just supernaturalistic representation. There are quite a few sculptures that have been attributed to Pythagoras in ancient texts. Even most of them don't exist or we haven't identified them. Here are a couple that have been associated with his name. The wonderful, this is pure severe style charioteer from Delphi in bronze. The gorgeous marble Giovane from Mozia. Mozia is in Sicily. This is a statue of a youth wearing a chiton. It's like a fortuny pleated, very thin, kind of gauzy linen drape. And it's so clingy that it has revealed all of his musculature underneath. And if you look at how the hand here really kind of sinks into his flesh and pushes up the fold, makes the fold here of that fabric is just absolutely amazing. And then of course our guys who are so gorgeous, absolutely beautifully done, beautiful sculptures, great story. And as kind of a boon here, they ended up in Reggio di Calabria because they were discovered off the coast of Riache in Calabria, and that happens to be the location where their author lived. So that's kind of a coincidence, but it's a nice coincidence. So really quickly, why were they on the bottom of the Ionian Sea off of Riache? The theory is that they were created in Argo in the 5th century BC, and they were displayed there until at least the 1st century AD. So by the 1st century AD, Magna Graecia is no longer. The Roman Empire has taken over the known world, and in 146 AD, Rome sacks all the villages in the Peloponnesus and takes the works of art from there and takes them to Rome. So we don't actually have an inventory that says the fratricide group was taken to Rome, but we do know that any notable work of art in the Peloponnesus was hauled off and displayed on the Palatine. And we have those ancient texts from Stazio and Tiziano. So it makes sense that they would have been taken to Rome, and then they were definitely seen in Rome. So we don't have, from the 2nd century AD document, we have nothing on these guys until they pop up. They're drug up on the beach in Riyache in 1972. So how did that happen? The theory is that in the 4th century AD, Emperor Constantine moved, and he did move, all the great works of art from Rome to Constantinople. So these guys retraced their track. They went through the same route. The Greek ships hung close to the coast. They would have stopped over in Calonia, today Riyache. And clearly something happened. There was a storm. The cargo went overboard. The ship was probably smashed against the sea. There's actually a huge lighthouse there today, so it's kind of a touchy point for sailors. So that is, I think, a good hypothesis about why these gorgeous statues were found on the bottom of the sea right off of Riyache. So let's just go up the coast a little bit to Battolato. This is where I'm sitting now. You can see it in the background. I'm going to just take you quickly through Battolato just so you have an idea of what the city is like, the town, village anyway, and then we're going to make 2 recipes. So quickly to give you an idea, the town was founded in the medieval period. There was a Norman castle right here. It's no longer there, but we're on a promontory above the sea. And so all of these churches and houses and all of these little buildings were built up on concentric rings going down this very steep hillside. It's kind of built up like a layer cake. So the architecture is kind of curious. Lots of up and down, lots of steep steps. All the houses are kind of literally in 4 stories. On the left there, you see the Church of the Immacolata. It's at the very far end of the point, and it's sort of a pilgrimage to get down there. It looks out over the ocean. It's a gorgeous, very serene spot. Here's a bread oven on the interior of one of the houses. You'll see mine here in a second. You're looking here, see these red horns? These are used almost like the bottle tree. In Mississippi, we make a bottle tree and we put upside down bottles to capture evil spirits. This is supposed to send the evil spirits away. And the V's that you've seen painted on these buildings are actually stylized horns. So the idea is to keep the evil spirits away, and the evil spirits and the evil eye. Here's just some images of the landscape with the sea. It's very, very arid, very good for olives, grapes. It's a good pasture for sheep and goats. There's a lot of cheese making going on around here. The sea, you can just imagine a Greek ship pulling up and deciding to found a colony on these shores. The women in town are known, and not just this town, but all these villages in this area of Calabria. They had looms in their houses, and they made these very particular geometric patterns in cloth. They were actually traded quite far and wide. Some of the towns around here, the villages themselves had contracts with Venice, where they were sent out of the port of Venice. They're still used today. The families who keep these things use their prettiest bedspreads. They hang them up, you can see, over like a bamboo pole to decorate the village for festivals or wedding processions like you see there on the right. Here are just some images of these very formidable women. You're about to meet one. You can see how they kind of typically going about their chores. The woman on the left is Nunziata. On the right. This is Nunziata. She's carrying produce from her garden. And then here she is. Her daughter and son-in-law have a restaurant, so she's helping them prepare some zucchini flowers. Here's Nunziata with her friends. So you're looking at Peppina, Rosa, and Nunziata, and then Concetta and Providenza here on the right. These women all get together and sort of do things together, like they make their tomato sauce once a year. Here on the left, this number 5 is Rosa's Catoio. The Catoio is the cantina. That's also where, of course, they store their wine, the cheeses that they make, salames. On the right, you see my friend Turi in his cantina. He opens it up on feast day. So this is one day after Easter Mass. We went to Turi's to have a glass of wine and a slice of bread and cheese. The religious festivals are really, really kind of heartfelt and well attended. That's Easter on the left, and it would take me another hour to explain what's going on there. This is it's called the Confronta, the meeting of Mary and the risen Christ. And it's got very interesting kind of a poignant end to this festival, which has pagan roots, and they end up, you can actually, it gives you auspices for a good harvest or a poor harvest. It kind of lets you know how the harvest is going to be. So again, kind of harkens back to pagan days. On the right, here at the bottom is an image of a man dancing with this paper mache donkey on his head. I forgot the significance of this, but it's done every year. Not this year, unfortunately. None of this is happening this year because of COVID. But once a year, there's a festival at the Madonna de la Neve, way up in the mountains. And this man puts on this fireworks-laden donkey outfit and dances the tarantella. So I'm just going to show you a bit of, anyway, the tarantella. So that's the music around here, again, part of their tradition. And I'm just let you just hear that for a second. That guy in the black shirt, such a good dancer. So I just wanted to let y'all have a little listen to the infectious folk music that they play around here. Pickup concerts happen after supper all the time, only again, not this year because of the COVID, but hopefully next year we'll be back to some nice tarantella concerts. Food tradition here is obviously really important, as in through all of Italy. Just a couple of images from the market, and one of my favorites there on the left, somebody's drying figs on an old bed frame. And I don't know who thought of that, but lots of people around here do that. No one throws away a bed frame. You just use it to dry your figs and maybe some tomatoes or something. Hilarious. Here are some of the dishes made by the women that you just saw photographs of: stuffed peppers, stuffed eggplants, pipi e patati. We're about to make that right now. And then, of course, the piece de la resistance is the parmigiana, usually made with eggplant, but today we're going to make it with zucchini. And I'm going to move into the kitchen, and my friend Agata is going to help me make, or actually teach me to make, I should say, parmigiana di zucchine.
Aspetta. Hai interrotto la diretta, lo share screen?
Oh, bravo, grazie.
E leva anche l'audio?
No. Here we are. So we're in the kitchen.
Aspetta.
It's my friend Agata. Are we on?
And hello everybody. I am the bronze C, the third bronze of Riyache. So
yeah, obviously Lorenzo's here with us today. Lorenzo's usually in an off-site, undisclosed location, but Lorenzo's here as well today. And this is Agata, and we are going to make pipi e patate, and we're going to make zucchini parmigiana. So parmigiana di zucchine. So first step, we're going to make some. Giusto, primo passo subito. Okay, so the first step is we're going to make a little quick tomato sauce. So we'll show you how to put that together. I'm going to go get some basil. Prendo il basilico, va bene.
Prima prepariamo.
Oh, okay, done. I'm going to wait to get the basil. So first, the tomato. Then we're going to put some water in the jar just to kind of loosen up the sauce a little bit, and we're also going to recover any bit of tomato that was left in the jar. And I usually don't use enough water, so I'm going to try to take that was a decent little bit of water she just put in there. Okay. Io lo metto là, va bene, mettiamo lì. So giusto?
Sì.
Ok. Ora
prendo qua.
Nella cassetta, quella di lei no però. Just mixing up a little bit the water into the tomato. This is just kind of almost like a binder in this recipe. And the key with the eggplant, sale lì e poi vado io a prendere il basilico.
Il sale.
Di qui. C'è un saliere un po' strano. So this is what I love about the parmigiana that they make in Calabria, and the reason I asked Agata if she would please teach me this recipe is that there's hardly any tomato in there. So really it just ends up being this nice solid thing that's not this soupy tomato stuff that you see a lot of the time. So the Calabrian version of parmigiana to me is the best.
Aglio.
Aglio. So she puts in, she just said she wants to put some more water in there. She doesn't think it's loose enough. So this is an Agata trick. She puts in 2 pieces of garlic, and I just l'ho schiacciato troppo. She puts in 2 pieces of garlic without frying them first or even cooking them at all, and she removes them at the end. So the garlic just gives a tiny bit. So these we're going to go into the sauce and just give a very nice light little garlic aroma without being too overpowering at all. Okay, basil out on the terrace. So watch how much basil she put in, and also notice that. She's better than me. She watches everything. You know about the moolah. So it goes in whole. And the thing about the basil is it just shrinks down. So there's no need to chop it up or rip it up or tear it up or anything like that. Okay, benissimo. All right, so that's going to just cook for a bit. We're going to keep an eye on it and let it reduce. We're going to go to zucchini, giusto? Bene. Okay, so the zucchini, c'è un di qua, dove sono?
No, quelli da tagliare.
Allora c'è uno qua. Okay, so the zucchini. No, tagli te, perché io voglio vedere come lo fai. Let's see. All right, so she's using the knife, as y'all might remember. This is this serrated kitchen knife that is present in any Italian woman's kitchen. And so she's slicing the zucchini. We're going to actually put the zucchini under salt for about half an hour so they lose some of their liquid. So notice that they're all a little bit different, and this is la cucina delle mamme con un po' di imperfezioni. We don't want them to all be the same, because then it wouldn't be the cucina della mamma anymore. So we think it tastes better if you do it this way. Ah, capito. Poi basta, fai quello pezzo in fondo, non dobbiamo mettere. All right, so this now gets tossed with salt, and I was kind of surprised actually how much liquid the zucchini lose. If you just let them sit there for half an hour, they really lose tons of liquid, which helps them. So when you fry them, then it kind of punches up their flavor a little bit. It's condensed flavor, and also gives them this great consistency. They're not watery and mushy at all. So she just tosses the salt in there. We're going to let that sit for half an hour, but of course we prepared some ahead of time. Scambiamo. So these are the zucchini that have already been sitting under salt. You can actually see the beads of liquid on here. That is literally zucchini liquid that has leached out of here. So we don't rinse these. A lot of times when you work with eggplant, you rinse the salt off. So we're not going to rinse them. The salt is just going to be part of the recipe. So now we're going to dry off the zucchini. Accendo il fuoco, va bene? Per l'olio? Okay. So this is her method for drying off the zucchini. They just get pressed really well to remove the liquid that was leached out by the salt. And then these are going to get, we're going to just run them through some flour, and then, let's see, okay, I salted the eggs. She has the garbage can. Come sono belle asciutte. Okay, so we are now going to pass the zucchini through flour, and we're using rimacinata, which is basically in the United States it's called semolina. This is hard wheat flour, what you might make pasta out of, and if you see it in the stores, in any place outside of Italy. It may even be sort of called, you know, flour for making pasta, that kind of thing. It's a very, it's not talcum powdery at all. It's very grainy, like sand. You can kind of see that. And it has a really good kind of spicy flavor, and we're just passing them through there. There's no egg or any of that. It's not a batter. It's just kind of a light coating, but it's going to give it some nice texture and flavor. And also that little bit of flour coating. This is a layered preparation, so once we layer everything, that kind of helps, makes everything, kind of solidifies it, makes it stay together. Mi segui al coscipane?
Sì.
Chiama così. Okay, so she has floured the zucchini. She's now going to fry them. They basically get una forchetta. Io non ho le pinze, quindi do una forchetta. So the oil is heating up. This is basically deep frying here. Cosa? Let's see if it's ready. Mi sembra caldo, non lo so. Quella fiamma fa. Not yet. All right, she's going to let that heat up a bit. I'm going to go recover. We're going to fry one zucchini for you, but I fried for 3 hours today. I'm just kidding. I fried for about an hour. And so here, waiting for us in the bread oven. This is the bread oven here of the house where I'm staying in Calabria. And we have our zucchini. And the little pan we're going to put this in. So that's how they are when they're done. They come out nice and brown and kind of a little bit crispy. Golden. See. So Agata makes her red. I just give the red sauce a stir. It's kind of bubbling. It's bubbling nicely. It's reducing. And she just reminded me to tell y'all that she does not put any oil in the sauce. A lot of times people put a splash of oil in the red sauce. You don't want to do that here because you really want the parmigiana to be kind of almost dry at the end. I've never known how to make parmigiana because I always end up with this kind of just like soupy thing with all this oily red stuff coming out of it. And I've always been amazed at the Calabrian versions, which are just savory, good, and really kind of almost dry and solid in a way. So one thing to do there then is not put oil in the red sauce, and then also to use extreme restraint with the red sauce. And I kind of have a heavy hand, so I like for Agata to do that. All right, so lasciamo questi a friggere, magari iniziamo qua.
Iniziamo?
Sì, prendo quello sugo lì, perché facciamo. So generally, while you're frying your zucchini, the sauce is reducing. I've kind of tried to shorten the timing on this for y'all. So some zucchini are prepared ahead of time, and we've prepared some sauce ahead of time as well.
Elaine, that's not. Elaine, she's just basically sauteing those and not deep frying them.
This is the part that I always tend to. But this is the sauce that I made. It's a little thick. Aggiungiamo un po' di quello. It's too thick. She wants it to be thinner. So we're gonna just add. Non c'è un romaio, facciamo con questo. We're gonna add some of our tomato sauce. Okay, good. All right, we've loosened up that tomato sauce. I kind of let it go too long. I made that before Agata got here today. Io ho la mano pesante quando faccio questo. No, lo so. And she says, don't. I have a heavy hand when I put in the red sauce. She's like, yeah, but it's not good. I went, no, it's not good like that. I've never made a decent parmigiana until now. Now I know how to do it. No, a me non mi piace quando c'è troppo. E io non sapevo mai fare quello che faccio io non mi piace. Ma quello tu è buonissimo, per quello che siamo qua. So she's doing us a very large favor, so how to make the best parmigiana in the world.
Just to confirm, this is a simple, plain red sauce with the garlic that has been sort of floated in it for some time on the burner with a little bit of water, right?
Yes. And then removed. Yeah. I removed the garlic has been removed. So I'm going to make thin slices. We're going to layer this up. I'm making thin slices of provola cheese. This is a very mild cow's milk cheese. Y'all can use something different if you can't find provola. You can probably find provola, but if not, it's fine to use something else. Very mild, kind of, I mean, you can see it's just very soft, mild cheese. I'm trying to make thin slices, but it's so dang hot in here, they're coming out kind of thick. È troppo caldo, non riesco a affettare questa roba. So that is, Agata's making the first layer, which is kind of a thickish layer of the zucchini slices. Okay. Oh, guardiamo dentro. No, va bene. All right, so the zucchini is starting to brown. Guarda, posso girare? Che dici? Okay, so the zucchini is getting really golden. I'm going to flip them over.
Okay, Elaine, someone asked if provola is like mozzarella. Yeah.
It's a pasta. It's the same procedure as a pasta filata, but this is a provola is a little bit less gooey, and when it melts, it doesn't get stringy. So you could probably, hey, dici, si può usare mozzarella se non si trova la provola?
Sì.
You could. So Agata, you have the permission of Agata to use mozzarella.
Agata say yes, you can use mozzarella.
Io basta un po' perché è veramente caldo. Allora, che ci vuole lì? Metto un po' di, si fa la provola? Mettiamo la provola, sì. So Agata has added a little tiny little light sprinkling of Parmigiana and Parmesan cheese, excuse me, grated Parmesan, and she's very careful not to use too much of that either. Just a tiny little dollops of red sauce. And then we're gonna use the provola, and then I'm gonna make some little slices of sopressata. This is a Calabrian Salami, and it's called sopressata. It's got this funny shape because it has had something pressed sopra on top, therefore sopressata. And it's also very rough grain. The pork has been cut with a knife. It has not gone through a meat grinder. This is kind of an extra little touch. And if you can't find really good salami, you might just want to leave it out. And again, I'm not putting in very much either. This is a very rich dish, and I'm just putting in extremely thin. I'm trying to slice it as thin as possible.
I have to do a quality control.
Lorenzo's doing a quality control. Questo è dal mercato non Brezzi. We have our favorite butcher here who's called Brezzi. I just actually bought this at the market the other day because it was convenient.
So what makes a salami?
Okay, so she's ripping it up into pieces. Can y'all see that? How tiny little pieces she's ripping it up?
Elaine, what makes a salami very good? Not too much fat, lots of fat. I don't know.
No, you want some fat. You want big pieces of fat too. What makes it good is the quality of the primary materials, and the aging method, and it really gets very umami flavors. So if it's been aged properly, it takes on a very kind of nice stiff texture and really gets kind of umami going. It's like aged cheeses do the same thing. Y'all see how imprecisely I'm cutting my eggs. So this is a Calabrian touch here. And you find this in their eggplant Parmesan as well. And I absolutely love the slices of hard-boiled egg. So everybody gets a little touch of hard-boiled egg in their piece of Parmigiana. Wow. You see what I'm doing? Oh, hang on, question. We're trying to get yolk in every bite. Va bene. Un po' di rosso qua, aspetta. Giusto. Okay. So next step. Levo questi. Okay, tu vuoi ma il sugo, Agata? Il sugo com'è? Ma questo com'è? Si può usare adesso? È fatto o no?
Sì.
Prendiamo?
Ma se ti serve per la pasta, devi fare un po'.
Okay. We're gonna let it keep cooking down because you have leftover sauce, and the leftover sauce, of course, you use on pasta. So we're gonna let it cook down a little bit more. So she's gonna put on a little bit more tomato sauce. And then we'll put on our top layer. E ci siamo dimenticati I pipi. Oh, ci siamo adesso però.
Che cosa?
I pipi e patate.
No.
We'll just get them going. So Agata is going to finish up the eggplant parmesan. She's putting another layer of zucchini.
Ah, I pepe.
Cosa? Sì, infatti questi. And I am peeling a potato because we're going to make one other quick little recipe.
Di che non è la stessa ricetta.
No, this is not the same recipe. We're making two recipes. So Agata's finishing up the eggplant parmesan. She's putting on another layer of zucchini. She's going to make them all fit in there. And then the very top layer is gets another little sprinkling of Parmigiano cheese, grated cheese, and no, va bene. No, va bene, guarda, ci do questo. Ce l'ho tutti io. So the top layer of this is a little sprinkling of Parmigiano cheese and a few more dollops of tomato sauce. And then it goes into the oven for quanto tempo in forno? Mezz'ora, 20 minuti. Okay. A che ora sono adesso, Lorenzo?
Adesso sono,
Okay. Quindi
sono 7:22.
Okay, so this goes into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 Celsius for 20-30 minutes, just to kind of melt everything together. Everything's already cooked, but we're going to melt the cheese and let it get kind of almost brown on top a little bit. We're going to make a second recipe, which is called pipi e patate, which is peppers and potatoes. So here are our ingredients. Lorenzo's going to zoom in on for you. These are called friggitelli, little tiny green peppers. I asked somebody once for a translation, and they said little green peppers. They're little green peppers. You can use bell peppers if you want to. And this is just basically a fried potato, fried pepper. So I've already cleaned most of the peppers for you, and I just kind of split them in half. I'm going to clean one just so you can kind of see what's on the inside of it. As Agata pointed out earlier, if you cook these by themselves, you leave everything in. But I'm going to. Oh, okay, she's going to show y'all. Hang on.
Okay. We have a question. Someone have no seen where the soprassata go.
Oh, the soprassata was put inside in that middle layer with the egg and the provola, and Agata took it and she ripped it up into tiny bits. So there's just tiny bits of very thinly sliced soprassata in the middle layer. So this is 2 layers of zucchini, and then the middle layer is provola, parmigiano, soprassata, and eggs. Vediamo questo, mettiamo questo. Che dici? 20 minuti, vediamo.
Sì, sono passati.
Poi vuoi sapere come si friggono in te?
Mm-hmm.
E basta, perché se deve fare un taglietto.
Ma tutti nei fermi qua, così si vede.
How spicy are these peppers? Do they have a lot?
Not spicy.
No. Sweet.
They're sweet peppers. E poi si può friggere. All right, so this is the version. This is how you would fix them if you were going to just fry them by themselves. But if you're going to put them together with the potatoes, which is what we're about to do, you actually take the whole top off. And then, of course, on the inside are the seeds and core. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And then cut it longwise. So these, mi fai la patata. I'm terrible at cutting a potato, and these Calabrian women, I don't know how they do it, and I want to see how she does it. So I'm gonna Ti lascio questo perché voglio vedere come fai te la patata.
Come lo faccio
Sì.
io la patata? Puliscila bene.
Oh, I didn't clean it well. I'm getting fussed at. I brontoli. Yeah, I didn't take the eyes out. I just hadn't gotten that far.
No, il mio tagliere.
No, my taglieri don't. No. So the women here. This is the knife they use, and they cut everything kind of in their hand in this way. And when I do this with potatoes, they're either too small or too big, and so I really want to see how she does this. Excellent. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
Also, my granny make fried potatoes like this.
Sì.
Yeah.
Ma lei aveva questo coltello, non c'è più.
Yeah, the same. In Italy, we call crocodile knife.
Crocodile knife?
Yeah, for the teeth of the.
Oh, because it's serrated, so they call it a crocodile knife. It's like crocodile teeth. Okay, so there's our potatoes. Okay, I'm gonna add. Possiamo mettere qui. We're gonna use the same pan. I'm gonna add just a little bit of. I'm gonna put in a little bit of fresh olive oil. This is a nice Calabria oil that I discovered the other day.
So both the peppers and the potatoes are relatively the same size, other than thickness, right? Okay.
Yeah, they're both kind of long. All right, so mentre questo si scalda, scambiamo le.
Vediamo se.
Prendo questo. So we're gonna let the oil heat up, and we're gonna show you a done parmigiana and put the one we just made into the oven. La finisci? Buono, no?
Right? Portalo qua.
I'm gonna arrivo. I'll be there in 1 second. It's hot. Woo. Aspetta, mettiamolo sopra questo. Però va bene così o si può dire va bene così?
I have to taste.
So here's the.
Questo è il meglio.
Let's see. So it's kind of got a little. There we go. It's a little bit kind of browned on top. Ok, mettiamo le patate e poi apro per le domande. Le persone possono chiederci domande. We're going to go ahead and put in the peppers and the potatoes, and then if y'all want to, y'all can ask some questions. You can unmute your microphone, but please remute your microphone after you ask your question. That way we'll keep some background noise down. If you have any comments or questions, feel free.
I have a question from Lisa. She asked if the peppers look like shishito.
Oh, I don't know, shishito. Maybe. I don't know, we call them friggitelli.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
The name of the town that we have is Badolato.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, someone asked what's the name of the town where we are. It's Badolato.
So we're going to put these in together. They cook for a pretty long time. The potatoes will cook and the meat will get almost kind of start to brown a little bit and they kind of start to stick together. Okay. And then we're going to put salt on. I just asked her when we put the salt on, and she said we'll do salt when they're done.
Vado a vedere. The town from the beach is 5 kilometers, so in 10 minutes we can go to the sea.
Elaine. Elaine, does the pepper and potato dish have any significance? You know, Is there a story behind it, or is it just a dish?
The story behind it is that it's just, you find it absolutely everywhere in every mama's kitchen. Say on a story idea for a custody chef actually sit on the name. We don't know if there's any story behind the pipe patate. And she actually makes hers a little bit different. So that now so I get to make hers a little bit different. She adds stuff. Okay, I'm kind of a purist, and this is the recipe I was taught this from Providencia, who was one of those ladies you saw in the pictures. Okay, you're gonna tell us how she does.
Sì?
Allora, tipo prima patate e cipolla,
So she actually fries potatoes and onions together first.
i peperoni, dopo però li levo le patate,
Mhm.
i peperoni,
Lady le patate.
Sì.
So she takes the potatoes out of the pan, puts the peppers in.
metto i peperoni, poi io butto l'olio
Uh-huh.
e metto i pomodorini a pezzetti, lo
E then-
faccio un po'
Togliere
d'olio e
Sì.
poi butto patate e peperoni.
So while after the peppers are cooked, she dumps out the oil, removes any extra oil. She adds in pieces of tomato, and after the tomato is kind of released all of its liquid and kind of melted a little bit, I think it's called, she adds the onions and potato stuff and mixes it all together.
We have another question. Teresa, say, what type of wine do people serve with this kind of dishes?
All right. One quick thing about the origin of the parmigiana, and then I will talk about wine. Don't ask about the origin of the pipe patate. It's just, it always has been, and the parmigiana, for whatever reason, always has been. Parmigiana sounds like it's from Parma, but it's not, and we don't know why this recipe is called parmigiana. It doesn't come from Parma, and it does not rely heavily on Parmesan cheese. Do you have a, Lorenzo, do you have a theory on why they call it parmigiana?
No?
So we don't know why they call it.
Incredible, I'm not here.
Lorenzo knows everything. He thinks he knows everything, but he has something on that one. So parmigiana is made kind of all throughout Italy, but it's the best versions of it are in the south. And the Calabrian recipe, to me, is the best. Now, I've asked people before to teach it to me, and they have refused. And so I'm extremely happy that Agata was willing to share her recipe, not just with me, but with all of y'all too.
But the wine?
And the wine. Prima quiero lei, poi vediamo. Quando mi ha chiesto, prima io ringraziato tanto per la ricetta, perché sono anni che volevo sapere fare queste cose. Allora, qualcuno mi ha chiesto, hey, Dino, one second, we're gonna ask her what kind of wine she recommends. And we'll see if we agree. Allora, hey, Dino, metti con questi cibi. No, rosso. He said red, and so red here is a kind of a relatively light-bodied, very tannic wine from the grape called Galliotto. I would have, and Tiro, yeah, under the Tiro is more fine. And she said, yeah, Tiro is a good red wine pulling. It is so hot right now. I would go for a white wine, and per me il bianco di tuo figlio sarebbe buono. Prendi tutto, Risa, guarda com'è. Allora, her son, ti piace or no? È buono. Her son Salvatore makes a white wine that I only had once. It is so good. It's a really full-bodied, savory white wine. My daughter's trying to do there. She thought, no? No, come fa?
Comprano l'uva.
Okay. So he buys, he doesn't buy.
Non l'uva, sbagliato, il mosto.
Oh, davvero? Oh, that's interesting. All right, so Salvatore he's not a farmer, he has a whole nother job. And he does not have a vineyard, so I said, well, I asked if his grapes were farmed here, and she said, no, he buys grapes. And then she corrected herself. He doesn't buy grapes, he buys multiple. So you can actually go out in for probably September and buy squished grapes, which is multiple. So that would be grape juice with all of this stuff in it, which makes it ferment. So you can kind of get it one step up and then follow it on from that point in fermentation. And his white wine is excellent. So any recipes I get to, I'm having Salvatore's wine. Lorenzo, Lorenzo's going to show you how the
Yeah, Marie asked if onions should be added in this plate. So I think yes.
I think no.
Okay, we have different point of view. Agata, me and Agata, wait. Me and Agata, we both put onions in the first time with potatoes.
Quindi voi due volete la cipolla.
And-
Io no.
And the American one,
No, what? This is my show, and we're
Yeah,
not putting
yeah,
onions
okay.
in there. Yeah, I'm not a big onion fan. Yeah, allora do it, please. I will do it, please. So I don't put the onions in. I frankly, you can use your own creativity here, but this really is the recipe that I learned from Providenza, and Providenza does not make it with onions. So it's still traditional without onions. It's not just because I don't like them. All right, any other questions?
Are you going to post this recipe on your website?
I'm going to send all of you an email tomorrow with the recipe. So you will receive it in your inbox.
And
Perfect.
the kind of flour that you used, are you going to, I missed the name of it, what it would be in the United States.
It's very fine semolina. So it's hard wheat, not soft wheat. They sell it in the United States to make pasta with it, and they call it semolina. But you want a very fine semolina, although for this, you actually could probably use the rough one. It'd almost be like coating something with cornmeal. And now that I think about it, you could probably use cornmeal, but I don't know if I want to tell Agata that I just said that. I'm going to ask her right now. Agata, senti questo. Mi chiedevano della farina e lì non è semplice trovare sempre la rimacinata. Però
C'è quello
quello normale sì, però
non quello per dolce.
no, ma aspetta, io avevo un'idea perché nel sud, io vengo dal sud degli Stati Uniti, tante volte si usa farina di gran turco. She's sorry, we're okay with that.
Abbiamo il fuoco.
All right, so
Sì, che va bene.
what do you think, Lorenzo?
I think, yeah,
Okay, so you can actually,
it should work.
it would work. So if you dread like green tomatoes, to make fried green tomatoes, you would use corn flour, cornmeal. You can use cornmeal for this too, it'd be good.
We have a question, wait. Can you bake the peppers? Oh, I prefer fried.
Voglio sapere se si può fare in forno questo. Non sarebbe la stessa cosa.
No.
It would be the same thing. No. She's looking at me with pity. There's a look of pity on her face. No. You got a frown. Sembra proprio buono. Noi mettiamo per tempo, mettiamo sul piatto.
Non so che ore sono.
Siamo quasi.
Oh, okay, good. We're almost there. We're about to put this stuff on a plate. I think. Looks so good. Better. Right, so she's saying this is so quick. So now she's realizing that her recipe takes much longer and has 5 steps in it, and my recipe is 1 step in about 10 minutes. So. I love it when the potatoes start to stick together. Mi piace molto quando si appiccicano. Mi piace tantissimo. Mi piace quando sono sì. Buoni. I'm going to go get a plate, and we're going to serve up both of these things. Let's see if I can get one.
You cannot smell the flavor, but it's incredible.
Do y'all deliver?
Do we?
Yeah, with FedEx. We ask FedEx for delivery in USA.
All right, well, I'm waiting on it, Lorenzo. Just send it on. I'll give you a big tip.
No, but Agata shot you down though. She said, no, we're going to eat it. With a glass of wine.
No. The potatoes are not parboiled first.
They're not.
No.
Although you could actually speed it up a little bit. Okay, she thinks they're done. We're going to go ahead and play them.
Okay.
What's the
We have eight.
I'm going to do.
Yeah.
We're done. We're ready to roll.
Just
All right,
salt,
good.
pepper, and a little olive oil.
I
What?
bet you could use shishito peppers with that.
I don't know what those are, but I bet
They're
you probably
delicious.
could.
They're little sweet peppers. They have a tiny kick to them, but not very much.
Uh-huh.
They're
That
delicious.
sounds really good.
They're delicious oven roasted, so I bet they'd be good like that.
That sounds great. I actually sometimes do add hot pepper to this, so the pepper that you mentioned sounds really great. So now Agata's gonna add salt, and then we're gonna just plate them.
Elaine, it's completely unfair that you do this at lunchtime here. We're starving.
Sorry about that.
We agree.
What? Yeah.
Did you use tomatoes, whole tomatoes in there?
No, I didn't hear that.
Can you add tomatoes, whole tomatoes in there?
Oh, Agata puts tomatoes in. I don't put tomatoes in. I'm kind of a purist, and this is the way I learned to do it, so I do it this way. But Agata does use tomatoes. What I'll do is tomorrow, I'll send you this recipe, and I'll send you Agata's recipe. If that's okay with her. Va bene se domani vi mando anche la ricetta tua. Con il cipolla, una cipolla. So tomorrow, I'm going to send you. No, ma lo faccio io, io scrivo la ricetta e lo mando a loro. Però ti chiedevo prima di condividere la tua ricetta.
No, perché non ci sono domani.
No, ma io lo scrivo, dico. Lo scrivo e lo mando. Sì. So tomorrow I'm gonna write down both of these recipes, and I am going to, I'll write down Agata's as well. We spent some light on the subject. So I'll send y'all 3 recipes tomorrow. A questo?
Thanks, Lorenzo. That looked beautiful.
Thanks for you. Now I'm eating. Sorry.
So with this,
what is the reason for adding salt at the end versus beginning?
perché si aggiunge sale alla fine e non all'inizio con questi? C'è un motivo?
Sempre si aggiunge alla fine.
Che il sale? Sì. Perché se friggi il pesce alla fine.
No.
It's habit. We just do it out of habit.
When you fry it, you don't add salt at the beginning, but only at the end.
Although I do have a friend, my friend Piero. He made potatoes he salted the oil heavily, and that was the salt. That was his method. But here, I don't know, all 3 of us have the same habit of salting it in. We're gonna show you a slice of parmigiana. It's actually too hot to cut right now, but I want you all to see the inside of it, so I'm gonna try to show you a slice. You normally eat this almost kind of room temperature. And of course, it's really good the next day. Proviamo di levarla, vediamo che succede. Lo so, è troppo caldo, no?
Sì,
Io l'ho tagliato qui, la vedi? Qui non so.
Aiutami col coltello.
Così.
Senti qua che mi prendono con le
Con le
mani.
mani, con le mani.
We're making a little bit of a. Hang on. Actually,
La provola qua.
I got a little bit too much provola stuck to the edge
Che
here.
calda e si è un po'.
Oopsie, lost the knife there.
Egg.
Green zucchini. Hang on, I can't stand this. Hold on. There, I had to clean the plate. So there you go.
Can I,
So tomorrow, y'all all get the recipes, and I hope y'all will give it a try.
can I put this on Facebook, your picture with the food to advertise to go to your website?
I'm sorry, our connection's gone kind of bad, and I'm having a hard time understanding. I will post. I'm going to send everyone who registered for the class. I'm going to send you the recipe. So if you joined in without registering, that is fine. But if you would like the recipe, send me an email, and I will get it to you. Okay.
Can I put you on my Facebook?
Oh, yes, please do. Yes, I would very much appreciate it if you put me on your Facebook.
I will.
All right, thanks. Yeah, everybody, post away.
You look beautiful.
All right, all right, salutiamo.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm waiting on my delivery, Lorenzo. I'm waiting on my delivery.
Grazie mille.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Ciao.
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 Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Grazie. Grazie.
Grazie mille.
Agata, Grazie Lorenzo, mille. grazie.
Che
bella vista,
che bella vista.
Grazie.
Okay, I show you the side.
Oh, it's beautiful, bellissimo. Ah,
Perfect.
I would love to be sitting there with you. Yes. Wonderful.
And the moon, and the moon.
Where's the moon?
Luna.
Ah,
Luna.
Bella Luna.
yes, yes. But where are the roosters?
We are very romantic.
Yes. Oh, beautiful.
See you next time.
Bye all.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Wonderful. Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao, Bella. Ciao.